Will you take Johnson Charles as your lawful wedded husband? The priest asked. Yes, I will, I replied with joy. We exchanged the marital vows. So I pronounce you husband and wife. You may now kiss your bride. Gosh, this is the day I've been waiting for. To say I'm happy is an understatement. I'm overjoyed. Lolts. Johnson has been the man of my dreams. I remembered praying to God that I need a tall, huge, hands-on and caring husband. It wasn't too much, 'cause it came true. Johnson has it all, everything I want in a man. I so much love him that I can kill for him. Lolts. The wedding ended and now we are going for our honeymoon. This honeymoon have been my dream, lying next to my husband and waking up beside him. I started planning this honeymoon long time ago. I pray it turns out as we have planned it. Gosh, this place is glorious, I said, excited, planting a kiss on Johnson's lip. Let's go in, baby. He held my hand and we entered inside. God. This is heaven on earth, I said in admiration. The interior is even more beautiful than the exterior. The lights, chandeliers, the center table was wow. Everything was perfect. Is okay, baby. I will take you for a walk tomorrow. We entered inside my room. I'm speechless. I kept touching everything. Then I fall to the bed. Wow, I'm not going home. Lolts. I am very tired. I need to take my bath. Johnson just came out of the bathroom with his towel on his waist. This man is damn handsome. Every day his handsomeness grows worse. Hey, when you are done checking me out, you go in there, he said, pointing to the bathroom. I laughed and went inside the bathroom. After we finished bathing, we had lunch. We bought it when coming 'cause I was not sure I will be able to cook. We finished eating and I cleaned the dining room and washed the dishes. We had sex that night, 4 rounds. I kept smiling till sleep started calling my name. I went to the restroom and as I was about entering the bed, Johnson wasn't there. I went back to bed, but I couldn't sleep. Then I decided to look for him. I checked the 3 rooms. He is not there. The kitchen, toilet, sitting room. I still can't find him. I gave up on the search and was heading to my room, but I started hearing voices. Sounds like they are quarreling, and they were shouting at each other, but was very careful. Then I heard footsteps. Seems like they are coming out. I quickly ran to the room and sleep. Then the door opened. He is back already. He lied down. But I turned to him. Baby, where have you been? I was in the kitchen. I was tasty, so I decided to take a glass of water. But I went to the kitchen and I did not find you. I asked him, looking at him suspiciously. Really, maybe you didn't check well. Okay, I said, sizing him up suspiciously. I turned and gave him my back. Something isn't right, I sighed and gave in to sleep. I couldn't sleep last night. I kept wondering why Johnson lied to me. Who was he talking to inside that room? I thought we were the only one here. I kept staring into space thinking. Hey baby, you are up, Johnson said, smiling. Yeah, I'm up, I said, faking a smile. I brought you breakfast in bed, he said proudly. Wow, thanks, I said, smiling genuinely now. Will Johnson ever hurt me? What if I can ask him? Will he tell me the truth? Hey baby, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay, I said, smiling. Sure, he asked, not convinced. Yeah, I replied him. Okay, let's eat, he said, smiling. Wow, the food smells nice, I said in admiration, sniffing every beat of him. I told you, I can cook well, more than you see, he said proudly. LOL, okay, I agree. Till you taste my food you will never eat outside, I replied, happy. We finished breakfast, we had our bath together, and I was lying on my bed sleeping when I held the door jam. I quickly rushed out of the bed and looked from the window. Johnson is going out. I asked myself. He is putting on black and red. Everything about him. Is he a ritualist? I laughed at my thought. Maybe he likes the color, I said, pulling away from the window. I decided to walk around the house. This isn't how I planned my honeymoon though. I kept walking room to room, touching everything my eyes saw. Then I got to the room, the same room Johnson entered last night. I pushed it open. It was dark inside. Then I switched on the light. Jesus! I screamed. My family's picture all over the room with red clothes and a statue. I ran to the door and pulled it open when something started ringing. That's a phone. I closed the door and started looking for the phone. I searched and searched. I couldn't find it. I was already sweating profusely. The gate opened and Johnson's car came into a light. Gosh, where is this phone? The phone stopped ringing and I was about to go. It started again. Then I saw something like a faint light. That's it. I heard Johnson's footsteps. He was almost here. What to do? I immediately grabbed the phone and switched it off. I put it inside my bra. I quickly ran out. Hey baby. He caught me. I am done for. Why is your face like this? He asked, concern. Not thing. I am not feeling fine, I said, stuttering. Gosh, my voice is failing me. He was looking at me intently. I think it's fever, I said as boldly as I can. Okay, let me take you to the hospital. No, I'm fine, I replied quickly. Why, but you said you are not fine, he said looking worried. No, I don't like hospitals, the smell especially. Okay, if you say so, let's go in, he said holding my hands. I only nodded. Johnson took me to our room and told me to lie down, which I did willingly. I was becoming scared of him but tried my best to hide it. I lied down and was staring into space. Baby, since you said you are not going to the hospital, I will just buy drugs for you, he said, kissing me on the lips, and left. I immediately jumped out of the bed and checked if he was gone. I brought the phone from my bra and switched it on. Low battery shut down, I cursed and threw the phone on the bed. I looked for my charger and charged it, then I sat down crying. My honeymoon is supposed to be sweet but is becoming a nightmare. The door opened wide. Who is that? I asked, jumping from my bed as I moved to the door and was about to touch it, but it locked by itself. I ran backward, heavy breeze started coming and my cotton fell down and I screamed. I turned and saw someone's shadow. I was shaking. Johnson, where are you? I sobbed quietly. I looked down and I saw a snake. How did a snake get in here? The snake was crawling to my side, hissing. I was thinking of a way to run out. Jesus, power outage. I was dead scared. I'm not going to die like this, I kept muttering. Then my phone started ringing. The dim light was helpful. I was able to see the snake going back. I jumped to my bed, took my phone and ran out. The power got restored and I kept cursing Nigeria for their poor power supply. I sat on the couch shivering, then I heard the clattering of spoons and plate. Not again, I cried. This time I didn't bother standing up, I was just glued to my chair. The clattering of the spoons and plates was getting more loud and I was more scared. Then something fell and I knew it broke. That must be a ceramic plate. I was shivering and continued crying like a baby. Then I saw something like a shadow. The shadow was walking around. From the way I saw it, it was puffing out, which was showing on the wall still. Hey babe, I'm back, Johnson said, smiling. I just ran to his arm, hugging him tightly. I was suffocating him, but I don't care. Johnson took me inside our room. I was shivering. Baby, what happened? Johnson asked, coming close to me. I shift uncomfortable. I want to go home, Johnson, I said with fear in my eyes. Why, aren't you comfortable with me? He asked. We've barely spent 3 days, he shouted. So what's my family pictures doing in your room? I shouted, crying. You went to that room? He asked, surprised. Yes, I did, after I heard you talking with someone that night and you lied you were coming from the kitchen. Ha ha ha, he bursted into laughter, leaving me speechless. You know, Claudia, you are so dumb. So are these while you thought I love you? He asked with his eyes bloodshot. Johnson, I exclaimed. Shut up, you bitch, he screamed. Johnson, please, whatever my family did to you, we are sorry, I begged, sobbing. It's too late, princess, he said, stroking my head. He took a rope and tied me up to the bed. That's where you belong before I decide what to do with you. For now consider your family dead, he said, walking away. I sobbed uncontrollably. Back in Lagos. Dad, Mum, good evening, Cynthia greeted, pecking then on their cheeks. How are you doing, dearest? Mrs. Laura asked. I'm fine, Mum, Cynthia replied, walking to the fridge, pouring herself drink. Mum, have you heard from Claudia? Cynthia asked. No, she is enjoying her honeymoon, Mrs. Laura answered. Cynthia scoffed. Mum, Dad, I'm going to take a nap, see you later. Mr. Ben smiled and looked away. Darling, you don't seem to be happy, Mrs. Laura asked. I'm fine, he said, faking a smile. Mrs. Laura stood up and walked to her husband. I'm your wife, you don't have to hide anything from me, so tell me what's wrong. I'm just concerned about Claudia. My instinct tells me something is wrong wherever she is, I replied, bothered. I think that's because you never liked that Johnson of a guy, Mrs. Laura replied, trying to calm her husband. Besides, if something is going on, she would have called us already. That's right, but I pray my instinct isn't right, he replied, walking away. Back in Abuja. I struggled with the rope. I looked around for any sharp objects, then I saw something, a lighter, but it was at the extreme. I cursed under my breath. I lied down and stretched my legs to the extreme. I used my leg to draw the lighter closer, then I threw it up and caught it with my mouth. I light it and put in the rope. My mind was beating faster. I did it 6 times, then the rope melt. I jumped from the bed and took my phone. I quickly dialed Cynthia number. Hello, Cynthia, tell everyone to leave the house and go somewhere far now, he said, afraid that Johnson meant come in. Auntie Claudia was going on, she asked, afraid. I could sense it in her voice. Just do it, I will tell you when I am back. Bye. I took my phone and tucked it inside my bra. I ran to the door, I ran back and took the phone, I switched it on and tucked it inside my bra. I ran out of the room and opened the door but it was locked. I ran to the kitchen, it was locked too. I checked the window but it was locked, then I heard the door opened, he is back. I checked the house for any hideout, maybe this is how I'm going to die, I muttered. Baby, I'm home, he was mocking me. God, how did I end up with this man, I cried. I ran to the cabinet in the kitchen and tucked myself inside, causing plates and pots to fall on the floor. Claudia, come out right now, because if I find you, you are died. Claudia, come out now. I used my hands to cover my mouth. Claudia, he screamed this time around. He entered the kitchen, his back to me. I know you are somewhere in here, he screamed. He walked to my side, I could see his leg, I held my mouth firmer this time around. Boom, my phone started ringing. He bent down and pulled me out. I told you I'm going to find you, he said, angrily strangling my neck. Then he pulled my hair, dragging me to his room. Mom, Dad, Cynthia screamed, running downstairs. What is it? Mrs. Laura asked, running out of the kitchen. Claudia called, she replied. Mrs. Laura hiss, is that why you are running, as if there is fire on the mountain, she replied, walking away. Mum, wait, she screamed. Seriously, Cynthia, I don't understand you, what's going on, she asked, concerned. Claudia called and she said we should pack our things and leave now. And why will she say that? Mr. Bin asked, coming downstairs. Dad, she sounded as if we are going to die soon if we don't obey her, and she was scared when she called, Cynthia explained. I'm not leaving without my daughter, Mr. Bin replied, looking away. Dad, Claudia said we should leave, please let's go, she begged. Neen, please let's go, since Claudia insists we go, please. Okay, pack your belongings, let's go, he replied, walking away. Not so fast, in-laws, Johnson said, smiling mischievously. Johnson, they all exclaimed. Surprise? He asked, laughing. Johnson, where the hell is my daughter? Mr. Bin asked angrily. Well, we are still on our honeymoon, he said, laughing. I came here for something important, he said, smiling. What's that? Mrs. Laura asked, shaking. To kill you all, he snapped. What? They all shouted. Shut the *CK up, he replied angrily. He brought out a rope and tied them all. I will be back, he said, walking away. Claudia's POV. God, please save my family, I prayed silently. Baby, I'm home, Johnson screamed. I shuddered at his voice. He opened the door. Oh baby, I miss you, he said, stroking my hair. I guess you must be hungry, he said, walking to the door. I will be back. Why are you doing this? I asked, stopping him in his track. What do you mean? He asked, feigning ignorance. Why are you bent on destroying my life and that of my family? I loved you, Johnson, with all my heart. Is this what I'm getting as a payback for loving you? I asked, sobbing. You are so dumb, Claudia. I never loved you, I only used you as a bait to get what I want from your family and pay them back in their own coins, he explained, laughing. You are a bastard, Johnson, I screamed. How dare you? He asked, giving me a dirty slap. Don't ever try raising your voice at me, he replied angrily. I will do it, Johnson, again and again. You beast in human form, I screamed, not knowing where the courage came from. Gosh! He screamed. He held me by my neck and pressed me to the wall, choking me. He pushed me and I used my head to hit the tiles. I screamed in pain. That's what you get for talking back at me, he snapped. Where did I ever go wrong, Johnson? I asked quietly. What's my offense? And I promised to amend it, but please spare my life. Well, not only your life but your family's. I'm sure they are crying their eyes out, because when I'm through with you all, you are going to beg me to kill you, he said, grinning. I looked at him in horror. I will be back, baby, he said, laughing. Mr. Ben's POV. I always know that Johnson guy was of no use. I know him but nobody knows, and I was happy he didn't mention it. I tried stopping Claudia not to get married to him, but she insisted. Well, I never wanted to look like a bad father, so I respected her wish. Johnson's father is my rival. We run different companies, but there was always a competition. You must be surprised, but I'm an occultic man. I and Johnson's father, I killed him and his family, but I was told one of his child ran away, but I didn't bother looking for him. Now he is back for revenge. I'm the one to be blamed here. I killed Johnson's father and took over his wealth. That's why I've become richer, and now his son is back for revenge and my family are to pay for my sins. I sobbed quietly. Follow me, Johnson said, dragging Claudia from the ground. Johnson, you are hurting me, see, Claudia cried out. Shut your mouth and do as instructed, Johnson screamed. He pushed Emma inside his car and drove off like a lunatic. Where are you taking me to? Claudia asked, scared. Shut up and let me concentrate, Johnson shouted at her. She swallowed her saliva. Get down, Johnson screamed, opening the door and pushing her out. He walked inside with Claudia. Mom, Dad, Cynthia, Claudia screamed. I'm sorry, Dad, I should have listened to you. Happy reunion, family, you will have to complete the reunion in hell. Claudia shuddered at his words. Johnson, please, I beg you, in the name of God, what's our offense? You, Johnson said, pointing to Mr. Ben, you killed the only family I had. What? They all screamed. Mr. Ben bowed down his head in shame. You made me an orphan in the early stage of my life when I needed protection and guidance, and you took my father's property, leaving me with nothing. Tell me the reason why I should not kill you. 2 years ago I have to investigate on my father's death. I was told it was not a natural death, then I discovered you kill them. Claudia was used as bait because she is soft-hearted. That's why I'm here for revenge, he declared angrily. Sorry, Mr. Ben begged. Were you sorry when my family begged you to spare their lives? He asked, bloodshot. Silence. Answer me, so tell me why I should not burst your brain, he asked. You are my son, Mrs. Laura said, standing up. Who? Johnson asked, surprised. You, Mrs. Laura said, pointing to him. I beg your pardon, Joe, Johnson said, dropping the gun. I cheated on my husband and went with your dad. We had S*X without protection. Few weeks later I discovered I was pregnant. When I told you I traveled, she said, pointing to her husband, I went there to stay till he was birthed and I gave you to him and came home. You were so busy that you didn't care about my presence, she explained, sobbing. Johnson was numb. He fell on the couch sobbing. Mum, and you allowed me to marry him, Claudia cried out. I'm sorry, I wanted to, but I saw you were happy with him. I wanted you to live a happy life. Mom, and you call this a happy life, knowing fully well I am sleeping with my step-bro. Mum, I can't believe you could do this to me, Claudia sobs. I'm sorry, Johnson, Mrs. Laura begged, kneeling down. Why didn't you tell me? Johnson asked. He was crying now. I wanted to wait for the right time, Mrs. Laura replied. And you think this is the right time, huh? Johnson asked. I'm sorry, Mrs. Laura begged, sobbing very hard that she could hardly breathe. Cynthia watched in silence as the drama unfolds. I'm sorry, I guess my greediness took the best of me. I'm sorry, he pleaded. Johnson hugged him tightly and walked to Mrs. Laura. I'm sorry, Mum, he hugged her tightly. And to you, Claudia, I'm deeply sorry. I know you love me genuinely, but it's not going to work anymore because from now I'm your brother, he said, hugging her tightly. Claudia sobbed quietly. Cynthia, I'm sorry, he said, hugging her, and they did a group hug. 2 weeks later. I still can't believe so. I was once a married woman but now single. They all burst out laughing. Me NKO, Johnson chipped in, once a married man but now single. I will now start over again, toasting all those grown-up hen. They all laughed again. I'm so happy, have always wished for this day, Mrs. Laura said, crying. This is not time to be emotional, Johnson said, walking to her and giving her a peck. They all laughed. Wow. Dad smiled. It's been a long time. Thank God too. Cynthia, who had been quiet, said something. Mr. Johnson threw the pillow at her, and she threw it back. Pillow fight. Mr. Johnson screamed. Yay, they all shouted, joining in the fight. Please subscribe and share.